Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, Northern Ireland's strict abortion laws are a breach of human rights, according to a landmark legal ruling in Belfast High Court. Campaigners hailed what they called an historic decision, which means that in certain circumstances, women will be allowed to have an abortion in Northern Ireland. Until now, they've had to travel to mainland Britain for a termination. The ruling today could mean women will now be able to end a pregnancy in local hospitals if they've been raped, the victim of incest, or if the fetus has a fatal abnormality. Northern Ireland is the only part of the UK where the 1967 Abortion Act does not apply. Women in the province can only have an abortion currently if their life is at risk. Medical staff offering a termination in other circumstances could be jailed for life. The law is equally strict in the south of Ireland, but today's decision will have no effect there. Well, I'm joined now from Belfast by the anti-abortion campaigner Bernie Smith. She's the founder and director of Precious Life, a group which vehemently opposes any change in the law. And Helen Linehan is in Norwich. She and her husband Graham, the writer of the hit television series Father Ted, have been campaigning to liberalise the laws in the south of Ireland after the trauma they went through when they found out they were expecting a child who wouldn't survive birth. Bernie Smith first. It's quite clear, isn't it? The court says that the current law in Northern Ireland violates a woman's human rights.
But it's very clear that the Northern Ireland Assembly, along with the vast majority of people here, are opposed to any change in legislation here. And I believe that democracy must be acknowledged in this case. At this point in time, the law hasn't actually changed. There has been a reference made to the European Convention on Human Rights, but that law can and must only be changed through the democratic process. It's very wrong for a judge to make this decision today.
OK, well, let me put that to Helen Linehan. This is undemocratic for the courts to make this decision when it should be up to the politicians.
Well, I think the positive outcome of today is that it's been acknowledged and that you know, the Department of Justice may appeal this decision, but at least it's been acknowledged, and that denying women access to abortion is a violation of their human rights, and it's been addressed today.
Well, your own termination would have been illegal both in Northern Ireland and in Southern Ireland.
Yes.
How do you think both parts of the country currently treat women?
I think it's diabolical, really, and it needs to be changed. If I had been pregnant in Ireland at that time, when our pregnancy was diagnosed with a fatal fetal abnormality, I would have been not given any option but to carry that baby to term, knowing that it would have a fatal outcome, knowing that it would probably, you know, if it did survive birth, it would only survive for minutes. And I don't think that that is a human right. Sorry, I'm getting a bit confused, but
no,
basically
it's traumatic to talk about as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's traumatic. It's traumatic. It would have been traumatic for the baby. Who knows what kind of trauma and suffering it would go through to die at birth. So the best option for us, through the NHS, there was no question about it, was to have an abortion.
Well, let me put that directly to Bernie Smith. I mean, when you hear from a woman like Helen, who is carrying a child that would not survive birth, or indeed a woman who's been raped or the victim of incest, to make those women go through a pregnancy is medieval, isn't it?
Well, when we speak about medieval, we think about progressive medical science, and perinatal care is the way forward for women who receive these poor diagnoses. These children who are so-called incompatible with life, it's very clear that these children are very compatible with life whilst in the womb. I have been personally involved with many women and have helped them through these difficult pregnancies. And when they choose to continue with the pregnancy, they are supported, they are given all the help to get them through, and many of them have the opportunity to hold their children,
Okay, but
and
we're
to
not
be able to.
Okay, but we're
to be able
talking
to have
about a
that
baby
time
here.
out. It doesn't endanger a mother's life.
Let me just give Helen a chance to respond to that. This is a child who would not have survived birth.
Okay, I think this is the conflicting view with the whole abortion issue, is that, and especially with fatal fetal abnormality, because fatal fetal abnormality is a medical condition. It's not a disability, and my baby was diagnosed with a condition called acrania, which basically meant that the top of his head was not there. It would not have survived. Its brain was exposed. The part of the brain that it did have was exposed, and it would have died. You know, I've met women since joining the Amnesty campaign. I've met women whose babies were diagnosed with incredible abnormalities, with no kidneys, things that definitely would not survive birth. These women then have to continue with their pregnancies, continue going to hospital, to the maternity wards, getting their scans until there is no heartbeat, and only then they are allowed to have any intervention. But until the heartbeat until there is no heartbeat, there is no intervention. It's pretty barbaric.
Bernie Smith, you must be moved by what you've just heard.
Barbaric is it to take the life of an innocent unborn child? Every child has the right to life. These are very vulnerable, innocent unborn children, and we should be continuing, as we have done in Northern Ireland, to uphold these children's rights, to protect them, to give the best medical care to these mothers and these unborn children. Destroying the life of an unborn child does not free that mother from the anguish, from the grief, and from the aftermath of losing that child. I have supported many women, and no woman I've supported has regretted giving birth to that unborn child, and there is no will here to change the law, especially in these difficult circumstances. We must provide better perinatal care, not abortion. Killing an unborn child is not the answer in any of these situations.
I think the answer is choice. Women need the choice. We deserve the choice. I respect women who continue with their pregnancies, who have been diagnosed with fatal fetal abnormalities or whatever the condition.
But and it's not very respectful to this unborn child.
And they give birth to their babies and their babies die. For me, psychologically, the best way forward for me and my husband was to terminate the pregnancy at a very early stage, which we were thankfully allowed to do with the NHS, and continue with our lives. And since then, we've had 2 healthy children. But sorry.
Helen, I'm really sorry to interrupt you there, but we do have to end it there. Helen Linehan and Bernie Smith, thank you very much for joining us.
Kathy.
Just a quick clarification. When I mentioned Northern and Southern Ireland during our earlier debate on abortion, I should, of course, have said the Republic of Ireland. So I'm sorry about that.
I've been getting away with it all